Hello, this is Brett Knowles from PM2 Consulting. I'm going to take you for a high-level demo of the MyObjectives software application. This is the normal screen that an employee or boss would look at when reviewing an end-of-period performance. Now let's touch on that for a second. We're using game mechanics applied to business. So think of a game as being, say, a quarter. And like in any other game, it's divided up into a series of periods. In this case, think of a period as being a month or even conversations on a weekly basis. So what we're looking at here in the overall screen is obviously the major performance area and conversation, as well as a summary in the top right-hand corner. So in this case, we can see that there are a number of items open for discussion. We've so far won 12 badges for the work we've done, if you choose to turn on the badges capability. And currently we've earned 565 points against a forecast of 875. And we'll talk about where these numbers come from in a minute. And then finally, there are 29 days left in this particular game. So if we go over to the performance area, what we have is a series of objectives. And in this case, we've categorized the objectives by different groups such as business development, communications, brand. And you can group these by any categories that you would set up, or, for example, perspectives from the balanced scorecard. We define an objective. In this case, we've included specific performance goals. Next, we have the opportunity of defining both our actual performance and forecast. So at the beginning of the game, you're going to work with your boss and your co-workers and negotiate how far you expect to proceed. Based on the level of progress you expect to have and the priority of that project, you'll be earning a capability of earning a certain number of points. So currently, based on the mix of forecast and priorities, this team has a possibility of earning 875 points. Now, let's touch on forecast for a while longer. As the period unfolds, things happen that get in the way of you achieving success. We have capacity issues, resource constraints, supplier problems, changes in the environment, and so forth. So you're going to shift over the period of time how far you think you're going to be able to achieve. Now, it's important that the organization understands this, because if they're expecting the project to be completed or the objective to be met, and you know that's not the case, the sooner the rest of the organization knows about it, the sooner they can figure out what is the implication for themselves. So we're not only going to outline what our forecast is, but how far towards that forecast we're actually completing at this point in time. So we're always tracking ourselves against my original forecast, and I'm going to tell you whether I'm red, yellow, green. Now, in fact, we have two flavors of green, sort of green donut and solid green, and two flavors of yellow, donut yellow and solid yellow, just giving you 6 degrees of scale. Overall, we can set our priority, and the priority should be set on the contribution of that objective towards the organization's strategic success. Now, based on your experience of what's happening and what your forecast is, you may or may not want to trigger the need for a discuss. The idea of discuss is you can trigger the sort of conversation that you feel needs to occur based on how that objective is progressing. So in this case, we've indicated that we need to have a conversation even though we're performing at expectations. This may be because there are potential issues happening in the future that we can foresee, or obviously in other cases where we know we're having operational issues and we may need the team or leadership to help support us. We also have the opportunity of giving some additional commentary on what's occurring. And if we want, we can choose to have visibility about, for example, in a RACI model, whose roles are associated with this, who's responsible for it, who's accountable, who needs to be informed, consulted, and so forth. And of course, a space for additional notes. So again, by taking a look at the actual scores and the forecast, this team is currently performing at 565 out of 875. So let's take a little bit more detailed look at that. So I'm going to take a look at how the team is trending over time. And what we can see is, again, they were expecting to have 1,000, and as time has passed, they've indicated that there's some erosion in their activities, and at this point they intend on ending, in the neighborhood of 900. And this is showing their progress to date, and again, how many points they've earned so far. This area here is what we call the success zone. We know that in very few instances do you end up 100% successful. So the success zone defines where we normally expect a team to end up. If you're anywhere, in this case, between 700 and 800 points, that's within expectations. So we do expect this erosion to occur, and teams shouldn't feel bad about it. So that's a quick look at how the team sees themselves. Let's go one level up. Instead of looking at one of the different teams, let's take a look at the overall organization. Now, at the overall organization level, what we should be able to do is consolidate by each department to see how we're performing. So in this case, engineering, they're at the overall achieved success level, marketing, operations, sales. So we can see how each team is performing. Then these objectives have been subscribed from those children scorecard. So for example, marketing's anteed up 3 or 4 indicators that they feel should boil up to the overall level. So now the overall leadership can see how we're doing against their major categories of performance. So this allows the teams to report up to the department, and the department to consolidate and report up further. So that's a quick review of the application. I just want to touch on 2 more things. If we go back to the marketing department's scorecard, we can do things like flag only specific objectives based on their discuss flag or their priority. So this allows the team to set their agendas in terms of how they should be spending their time during the team meetings. What we've learned is many team meetings are ineffective because they turn into just a show and tell. In this case, we can begin to focus it in on either the things that we flagged for discussion or the things that we know are most important. The final thing I want to touch on is how to build these. What we know is most organizations have all the building components already. We already know what our strategy is, what our priorities are, even what our objectives are, and who's associated with them. So within MyObjectives, we've built a wizard that allows you to step through those activities. And it's just a simple sequence. Define your objectives, categorize them, prioritize them, align them to the strategic goals, sort out the role clarity model associated with it, and then make sure that people have reviewed and certified them before we launch the actual scorecard. For these activities, we not only keep the status of how you're performing, but of course you can also win badges for the work that you've done. Setting it up is straightforward. It only takes a couple of days of hard work, and running it is straightforward. The important component is adding in the conversation around the team to have that open conversation about our performance and how we're doing. Some organizations need a little bit of extra help, and so we've created the Consulting Guild, a site that will walk you through the academic and best practice methodologies for building your MyObjectives implementation. The Consulting Guild has 4 major modules: an overview of MyObjectives, how to set up the software, the custom building of your solutions around your management practices and frameworks, and then finally, how to run those monthly meetings. If you subscribe to the Consulting Guild, you'll also be assigned a personal coach that will walk you through each learning step and look over your shoulder as you implement your solution. Finally, within the Consulting Guild, we have effectively 4 levels of sophistication on the tools available to you. Think of when you're skiing, the easy hills have a green circle. The ones that are slightly tougher for the more skilled people, a blue square. The tough ones, black diamonds, and the really sophisticated ones, double black diamonds. The methodology takes you through different frameworks and tool sets, and you can use the appropriate tool set for your organization's culture and capabilities. Each of the 4 sections is comprehensive and provides you with a series of articles, advanced readings, videos, and embedded tools to allow you to complete your implementation. Here's an example of one of the tools in the Consulting Guild. This virtual post-it note board is pre-populated with either your organization's strategic objectives, or in this example, generic objectives that work for any organization. And through working with your team, you can agree where to place a strategic objective, whether it's important or urgent, and this will allow you to begin helping set the organization's priorities. Also, you can vote and get better visibility of which team members have decided which objectives fit in which categories. Tools like this are provided to enable you to facilitate a team either in the same place and same time, or different places around the world at the same time, or even asynchronously through things like electronic surveys. So there's a selection of different tool types and levels of sophistication so that you can implement MyObjectives in a format that best suits your organization. So between the simplicity of MyObjectives, the support of the Wizard, Training Camp, and the Consulting Guild, we're able to provide you with a smooth transition from your existing management practices and dashboards to the new world of business gamification and employee engagement, retention, and customer satisfaction.